Hi everyone. We are going live with Rachel Greenspan. She graduated in 2018, so we will get started with that shortly once she gets on. If you have questions for Rachel, she'll introduce herself as soon as she's on. But if you have questions, you can use the question feature down below, and we will get started shortly. I just requested you, so that should come through. Awesome. If you're just joining, we're going live with Rachel. She's connecting right now, so she should be coming in. Hi, Rachel. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you, Cassie?
I'm good. I'm so excited. This is our first all-in Alumni Live Lunch interview, so I love
Woo.
that you're our first guest.
It's an honor. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course.
Um, so fun to be here, and for the viewers to know, I used to work with Cassie in the Fleischman Center, so it's
Yes.
especially fun.
Yes, so fun to have a familiar face here with me. So, do you want to start by just introducing yourself to everyone and kind of letting them know a little bit, maybe about what your Binghamton experience was like, and also what you're doing now?
Yes, totally. So I graduated in 2018 from Binghamton. I was an English major with a French minor. And at Binghamton, I was in Sigma A Pi sorority. I worked at the Fleischman Center. I was in Kas Keset, the Jewish a cappella group, and what did I miss? Oh, Pipe Dream, duh, the most important one. I was an editor at Pipe Dream, the student newspaper.
Yep.
And I had an amazing time at Binghamton, huge fan of Binghamton.
Good.
And then after school, I went to work at Time Magazine, where I was for a little over a year and a half. And then recently, actually, at the end of March, I just started working at Insider Inc., where I'm a digital culture reporter, which is kind of maybe a confusing title to some people, but I
Yeah.
basically I write about anything happening on the internet. So memes, influencers, misinformation, social media, um, technology, apps, anything happening on the internet I write about.
Awesome. Is there anything either in your previous position or now that you were like super excited to write about, or anything that you're like, whoa, I can't believe I'm writing about this and this is my job?
Ooh, I love that question. Honestly, I've had so many moments like that. Like I feel that I've been very, very lucky in what I've gotten to do in my career so far. I mean, just the fact that what I'm writing about now for my full-time job is a topic that I have always been obsessed with. I was like a kid who was watching YouTube instead of TV all the time, and I just love the internet and influencers and everything related. So basically every day I have one of those moments. I'm trying to think. Recently I wrote a profile of Dixie D'Amelio, who's Charlie D'Amelio's older sister.
Right.
So she's one of the biggest stars on TikTok. So I felt like really excited to be able to kind of talk to her and show readers the personality behind one of these big figures. And I thought it was interesting too to give a look into like the life of one of the top people who isn't at the top, if that makes sense. So,
Yeah.
her sister is the most followed person on the app, and she is super, super, super famous in her own right, but people don't maybe know as much about her. So that was an interesting piece for me to write.
Yeah. That's great. It looks like a question just came in from Ryan. Did you get to meet her, or how are you communicating with her?
Good question. I unfortunately did not get to meet her. When writing a profile, it's always preferred to meet the person in real life and, actually spend time with them. That's really how you get a good sense of a person. But, because of the pandemic, I just wrote this in the last couple of weeks. So we just did a phone interview. So we spoke for, I want to say maybe 45 minutes over the phone. And then there was a lot of back and forth over email with her publicists to get more, details on, the high school she goes to, the exact sports she played and which years, and confirming some fact checking pieces like that. But I did get to meet the kombucha girl, if anyone remembers that meme from last summer, where she was like sipping kombucha and she was like couldn't decide if she liked the taste of it. I met her when I was working at Time. I did a profile of her when she was in the city, in New York City. So I got to hang out with her, and that was
Awesome.
great. So
That's great. What a cool job. I feel a little
Thank
jealous,
you.
but also a little bit like now, I'm like 2 degrees away, right? If I know you and
Yes.
you've talked to these people. So that's cool. What do you feel like you did at Binghamton that like prepared you most for the jobs that you've had since graduating?
So I would definitely say the main thing was pipe dream.
Yeah.
And I think there's this kind of misconception about Binghamton that because it doesn't have, a journalism program per se, you can't become a journalist if you go there. And I just want everyone to know that that's not true because Pipe Dream is one of the most amazing student-run newspapers in the country, I will say, in my humble opinion. And I really can't even tell you how many times I've been working on a story and remembered a lesson that I literally can remember the moment I learned that in the Pipe Dream office and how that prepared me. I was actually talking on Twitter recently with Nick Vega, who was editor-in-chief of Pipe Dream when I was, I believe, a sophomore, and he works for the New York Post now. And I was saying how I always remember one day he said, listen, a story builds itself on its quotes. Like, don't forget that. And I always think about that, when I'm struggling to write a story. I think, okay, just go back to the quotes. What did they, like, the person you interviewed or the people you interviewed had to have given you enough to work with, and you can make it work with what your subjects gave you. And that's a really big lesson.
Awesome. That's very cool. And some great advice there. I love how that experience that you had at Binghamton, has clearly like directly prepared you for your work now. So that's great. Can you share a little bit about your job search process, both with your previous role and to your current role, and kind of what that was like, what you experienced?
Yeah, definitely. Also, I love seeing some former Pipe Dream and some WHRW people in here. I see that. That's fun. Yeah, so I was really lucky and owe a lot to Binghamton and to Pipe Dream for getting my first job at Time. A Pipe Dream / Binghamton alumna, Sophie Rosenbaum, was a news editor at Time, and she posted in our Pipe Dream alumni Facebook group. It was early June of 2018, so it had been a few weeks since I graduated, and I was kind of like, where's my job? And she posted this, and I immediately emailed her. She basically said, like, we have a couple entry-level positions opening, like, email me if you're interested. And it was like 11 p.m. and I immediately emailed her and was like, I am very interested, And I remember I wrote, I submitted in the email, I attached like a cover letter and resume, but I also wrote in the body of the email kind of my own personal experience with writing and kind of why I wanted to be a writer.
Yeah.
And she responded and said, come into the office and let's talk, which was like, obviously that whole situation was extremely lucky, but also goes to show why being involved in something like Pipe Dream is so important for your connections after school. And so, sorry, I'm making this short story very long, but basically, oh, thank you. So I went to the office, met with her and another woman, and interviewed with them. And then there were a couple more phone calls, and then an edit test, which basically any job in journalism, you'll have to do an edit test. And at Pipe Dream, you have to do an edit test as well before you join staff, which is always, it's like something different everywhere. But at Time, when I was applying, it was something along the lines of, here are 3 news events, write the headline and a little bit of the article that would go along with your version of telling this story, basically. And so I did that, and then eventually I got the position, which was, I should say, an editorial assistant role on the news desk. And then eventually in March of 2019, I was made a reporter full-time on their newsfeed team, which is kind of what I'm doing now, like it basically internet stuff. And I worked with the history and entertainment editors a lot too, which was really fun. And then this job now that I'm in at Insider was like kind of a similar, almost luck situation. And I'd been in touch with the person who is now my boss / editor on Twitter, and they were building this new team for digital culture. And it just sounded like a really, really exciting opportunity. And that's basically how it all happened.
That's awesome. I saw a comment scroll through. Someone said that they love hearing about how positive things can come from these connections. And I think that's so important. We've been talking about it a lot, Fleischman Center staff, and we've been on live a bunch in the last couple of weeks as students are kind of navigating learning from home and all these types of things about really pushing networking right now. So do you have any other stories or positive connections, things that have come from your network, whether it be Binghamton related or not, that you could share with students, and any kind of tips around networking?
Definitely. I think when I was a student, I definitely didn't understand networking. It
Yep.
sounded like, especially as a liberal arts student, it sounded like this really kind of ambiguous kind of enigma of a concept to me.
Yep.
And then thanks to working at Fleischman, I senior year started to understand exactly what it was. And it's actually, it's actually really simple. It's just, communicating with people who you have connections to and leveraging those connections to further your career. And I think obviously right now is definitely a not ideal time to be job searching.
Yeah.
But I will say people are really wanting to help people, especially in a time like this. And I think one thing I've noticed about Binghamton alums is that, they really want to help genuinely. Like everyone I've spoken to since, like, first of all, I mean, I'm always happy to talk to current students and I love doing that. And I think it's super fun. And I think most Binghamton alum feel that way. I think, our school is like very interesting, and I think people do feel a lot of pride for it and want to help students. And so, don't be afraid to reach out on LinkedIn or Twitter or Instagram or whatever and say, you do this really interesting thing, you were in this club I was in, would love to set up a phone call to chat. Like that's all you have to do. And especially right now, everyone has a lot of time on their hands. So everyone should be networking.
Right.
And also I feel like my most successful networking stories have happened online anyway, not even in person. Like obviously I've done a lot of the Fleischman events that in the city that I'm obviously can't happen right now, but even my original time job happened from a Facebook post, and then this job was kind of from Twitter, and it's a whole thing. So definitely don't be afraid to try those connections digitally.
Yeah.
And especially for journalism, to be a good journalist, you have to be able to like basically track people down all the time. And so you should be able to find my email, everyone else who's a Bing alum who you're interested in speaking to. Like you should easily be able to find these people, like they exist and they want to help you.
Yeah, I think that's great advice, like knowing your industry a little bit. And if you want to kind of go that route, to be willing, especially with journalism, like you're going to be talking to people that you don't know. So let's start that now and, do a little networking and do a little digging. So I love that advice. I saw some other people saying that they love it as well. We had another question come in about your path to decide that this was the career that you wanted. Someone also asked what your major was, so I'll reiterate that you studied English, right? So can you just kind of walk us through what kind of led you to your career?
Yeah, good question. So I definitely always considered myself a writer, sorry.
Oh.
Did my thing just go out?
Yep, but you're good. You're back.
Okay, sorry, I'm hearing. Yeah, I always definitely considered myself to be a writer and like wanted to be a writer, no matter obviously who knows what that means. That a writer is not like an occupation. It's more of like, I don't know, a self-identifier. But anyway, needless to say, I was always interested in writing. And so, even in high school, I was always involved in our high school newspaper. And like, I'll never forget my first article I wrote for the Hall Highlights in West Hartford, Connecticut was a review of The Social Network, which like also people, well, that like shows my age, but meaning like that movie's not that old. But anyway, yeah. So, and I wrote that article and I was like, oh my God, yes. Like, I definitely love journalism and it just got me so excited. And then I ended up being an editor-in-chief of that newspaper. And so like literally before I got to Binghamton, like the summer before freshman year, I actually emailed Nick Vega, the person from Pipe Dream who I mentioned before, who's at the Post. I emailed him, he probably doesn't remember. And I was like, hi, like I would love to be involved in Pipe Dream. And he was like, okay, relax, come to the GIM, like you're fine. And so, yeah, so I just always kind of knew. But then I will say senior year, I was very wishy-washy about it and very much like, oh, wait, like, I don't know if I'll, it's a hard industry to break into. Maybe I'll just go the marketing, copywriting route, which I talked about a lot at Fleischman with the staff there. And so I ended up just applying to a bunch of jobs in both journalism and in copywriting and kind of was like, let's see what sticks.
Yeah.
And what happens. And I am very happy with what ended up happening. So
good. Love it so much. So then that leads nicely into a question just about your career goals. And, maybe you don't have it all planned out, but what do you see as being next or, 5 years down the road, things like that?
Totally. I would say my next career goal probably within 5-ish years would be to be an editor. And I've always felt that I'm a little bit maybe better at editing than I am writing. I find it really exciting to improve others' writing. And like I've always, in college, I like always wanted to help my friends edit their papers and stuff like that. And that was my favorite part of Pipe Dream, was editing and working with writers. And so, definitely wanting to like hone my own writing skills over the next few years and become kind of the, as best a writer I can before I'm helping. Because when you're an editor, you're basically you're managing other writers and helping them improve and trying to teach them. So I don't have enough to teach now, obviously, yet. So I'm excited to get to that point one day. And then also one day, I'm putting this out to the universe. I want to write a book. I don't know what it will be about, but it will exist, perhaps.
I think that's great. Put it out to the universe. Who knows? Maybe someone watching has some connections that they can help you with. So
Exactly.
If you do, let Rachel know either in the comments or you can find her online for sure.
Yes.
Awesome.
Follow me on everything.
Yeah, I was going to say, I have one last question, but where can people find your work? Where can they read what you're writing about? Check out your tweets? Where can they find you?
Amazing. If you search Rachel Greenspan, I am thankfully the first one that comes up. That took a while, but Google really bumped me up there. So yeah, you can find me on, just Google search my name and you'll find my Twitter and LinkedIn and Instagram probably, and all my articles that I've written if you're interested, and also on my author page, insider.com/Rachel-E-Greenspan. You can see my email and send me an email directly if anyone wants to connect. But yeah, my Twitter is at Rach_Greenspan. And my Instagram, you guys can see it right here, actually, Rachel.Greenspan. But yeah.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Rachel. For anyone who's just joining in, she did say she loves talking to current students. And if you didn't hear it before, we will post this, but Rachel has had some great successes with networking. So phenomenal person to have on our live today. And my last question, Rachel, is just, a lot of students are preparing for finals right now, and the stress of job searching, much like you experienced graduating without a job. Do you have any final tips or last pieces of advice as students are kind of going through this time?
Yeah, honestly, this is gonna sound bad, but just like don't be lazy, okay? Because that's it's very easy, especially in the end of school, especially at a time like this. I would definitely be like all like slumped and be like, ugh, what am I gonna do, But I swear it will pay off. And I don't know, build a support system with your friends who are all in the same boat and all job searching too, and just check in with each other. Like my friends and I, senior year, some of them I think are watching this right now. We would be like, okay, I applied to 4 jobs today. Now I'm gonna do this, and now I'm gonna do this, and then tomorrow I'll apply to 3. Just try to be structured with it, and when you don't have a job and you're looking for a job, your full-time job is looking for a job, and don't forget that.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks so much, Rachel. I'll do a quick plug for the Fleischman Center. I know you all watching are prepping for finals and are wrapping up what was probably the weirdest semester we've ever had, and hopefully we'll ever have, fingers crossed. But the Fleischman Center is open open virtually. We have appointments available, so if you are still job searching or if you're not sure about your career goals, we have appointments available. So definitely check us out, reach out to Rachel, read her stuff. And Rachel, thanks so much for joining me. This was fun. We'll have to do like a part 2 maybe in the fall or something.
Yes. Yes, or one day when I write a book, then we'll do another one.
Yes, definitely when you write a book, we will have you back on. That's your motivation.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me. So good to see you, Cassie.
You too. Have a good one.
You too. Bye, everyone.
Bye.